Welcome to the Elokus podcast. This is class number 9 in the discourse Medaber Moshe Roshei Hamatos 5672. This is the which is the 10th discourse in the overall book B'Shashe Hekdimu 5672. This is going to be class number 5 in chapter 38, and with this class we're going to conclude chapter 38, moving in Be'ezer Hashem with God's help to chapter 39. Okay, so yesterday we were exploring already in the last two classes we were exploring the essential difference that there is in the worlds, that there is what makes higher and lower, as discussed in the earlier classes, is not merely just more light or less light, but a fundamental essential difference. He explained it both in general, the worlds above Atzilus, the worlds above it, the world of emanation, the worlds of the Ein Sof. Over there, the substance of the kav of the beam is experienced, and in Atzilus, it's only a narrower perception of the kav, which is called the ha'ara of the kav, a radiance of the kav, which is just, as he referred to, as knowing the existence of the Ein Sof, obviously knowing the existence of the Ein Sof up and close in comparison to the way it's known lower in creation, because this is not yet a level of creation, it's still a level of the divine, but it doesn't have the full, sharp, true experience of the substance of the infinite light, because then it couldn't possibly exist even as a world with its definitions, even though we're dealing with the definitions of Atzilus. That's what we learned in 2 classes ago. And then yesterday we spent the class that we just before this, class number 8 of this discourse. We discussed how within above Atzilus itself, Adam Kadmon enjoys a whole different level of revelation of Ein Sof versus the revelation of how it continues on in the lower levels between Adam Kadmon and Atzilus, between primordial man and Atzilus. Although in general, in the earlier class number 8, we swooped them all together as an experience of the Kav itself. But within that, we said that the real revelation of the Kav itself is an Adam Kadmon. But after that, it's considered just like yesterday, he called it a Havalim, the Hevel, just like a breath or some kind of an external type of revelation coming from Adam Kadmon to continue to bring about the continuum of the rest of the evolution of the lights. Remember we learned the Hevel of Oizen Chaytem Peh, of the ear, the nose, and the mouth of Adam Kadmon and below. Okay, so that's what we learned. That's what we were learning in earlier. I want to go back to something we said yesterday. In order to illustrate this idea that Adam Kadmon is a class unto itself, he brought the idea that it's called Kadmon, that it's called primordial. And he asked, how can you say that it's called primordial if it's Adam? Adam means it's already a design, and you can't ascribe to God in his essence a design, a human design. Yes, there is elements of what we refer to as a divine projection as human, but that's exactly what it is. It's a projection as human, not an essential human figure in God himself. So Adam Kadmon came about after the Tzimtzum, and it was, as he uses the word, Allah, it arose in Hashem to want to think about this Adam. And this is what the moment he thought about it, it brings it into existence. And that includes everything that will later come about through the entire scope of the cosmic order. Everything that will come about is all included in that. But yet, that's new. How can you call it Kadmon primordial? So he explained the idea is that since Hashem says, let us create man in our image, and this has to mean, if we're applying this to Adam Kadmon, it must be that Adam Kadmon has certain qualities of the Ein Sof. What's the qualities of the Ein Sof? The quality of the Ein Sof is that it is Kadmon. So because the quality of the Ein Sof, one of the qualities of the Ein Sof is that it's Kadmon primordial, so that carries over into the Adam, that it too is Kadmon. So yesterday we were struggling with it, and I made some kind of a suggestion that once Hashem thinks this, it retroactively becomes thought out forever. It's a cool thought, but I didn't find that. I didn't do. I shouldn't say I did extensive research. I want to just take that back because I can't make up things on my own. What I did see is he references over here the Maimer of the Tzemach Tzedek, the three types of Adam. The Tzemach Tzedek doesn't seem to say that. What the Tzemach Tzedek says is that based on what we were learning yesterday, how Adam Kadmon is essentially different than everyone else because the Kalim are directly created from the Or Ein Sof. There's no intermediators over there. There's no medium levels that mediate between the Or Ein Sof and the Kalim. It's the Or Ein Sof originates these vessels, which we don't have anywhere else in any level of Seder Ishtalshalos, means in anywhere else in the order of evolution of the evolving worlds. Kalim are always a production of a higher Kali. It's a vessel evolving from a vessel. Just like we gave the example of Adam Arishon. Adam Arishon is the first human, and his body, unlike all bodies, which the body at least is created from the father and the mother, the soul comes directly from God. Gimel Shutzfim Ba'Adam, 3 partners and a man. It's amazing. I was very happy because when I read this from the Tzemach Tzedek, I realized that even though he didn't say it in the Maimer, and I was saying it yesterday on my own, all of this, the Tzemach Tzedek actually talks about how there's 3 Shutzfim in a person, and usually 3 partners. Usually the body comes from the parent, and Hashem gives the neshama. The same applies also to the supernal spheres. He says that every keli, every level, every sphera attribute is a product of certain yichudim that bring it about. For example, the yichud of Chachma and Bina, the unification of wisdom and understanding, creates the children, which are the Ze'er Anpin and the Malchus, the boy and the girl that are created, which means those kelim come from parents, not directly from the Or Ein Sof. And even Chachma and Bina itself, they are produced from a yichud of the 2 names of God, Ma and Ban, in Erech Anpin, which is 2 levels of, which is in Keter itself. There's 2 Keser in the crown. There's 2 elements of Hashem's light, the Ma, which is the male, and the Ban, which is the female. Through whatever that union means, that brings about father and mother. So everybody's always produced by something. The original vessels are created directly from God, just like Adam Arishon was created directly from Hashem. And that means that his body was so different. And what's so beautiful, I want to share with you something that I saw in that Maimer, the Roshei Gimel Adam, where the Tzemach Tzedek says, and this is similar to Adam Arishon, and the human Adam, and he brings that he heard from the Alter Rebbe, which the Alter Rebbe said in a manner of hafla, in a manner of like, wow, that Adam Arishon was so great that Adam Arishon walked in his body, with his body, he walked through the Heichalos, which means he was walking through the supernal chambers above, strolled with his body, because he had a complete different type of body. No other human being had a body like him, which put him into a class of its own. And what was striking is the Alter Rebbe said that even the Baal Shem Tov, the Arizal, and the Rashbi, again, the Baal Shem Tov, the holy Baal Shem Tov, founder of Hasidism, the Arizal, the holy Arizal, and the Reb Shimon Bar Yochai could not match the level of Adam Arishon before the sin. I mean, his body was on a complete different, because his body was made directly from God, and everyone else is a Yalid Isha, is a born from a mother, which classifies the body on a much lower level. I liked what I enjoyed was that when the Alter Rebbe wants to say like there's no one compared, like who is he lifting Adam Arishon above? These 3. The Baal Shem Tov, the Arizal. In other words, if you want to speak about someone great, he doesn't mention Moshe Rabbeinu. He mentions the Baal Shem Tov, the Arizal, and the Rashbi. And over there, the Tzemach Tzedek says, even the Rashbi, who says that if there's one tzaddik in the world, it's me and my son, ever to live, it's me and my son. Yet, Adam Arishon is a class unto its own. But still, regarding the essential question, how the Tzemach Tzedek asks this question over there, how do you apply Kadmon to Adam Kadmon? Okay, yes, true. God himself, the Or Ein Sof, is producing it, but why is it called Kadmon? So, Kadmon means forever, primordial. So he wants to limit the concept of kadmon over there and say, he brings that we find the lashon adam kadma'a, the first Adam, applying to Adam Harishon. In other words, I said yesterday that whenever it says Adam Kadmon, we're not applying to Adam, because Adam is never referred to as Adam Kadmon. Adam is referred to as Adam Harishon. That's what I said yesterday. However, the Tzemach Tzedek says that that's not the case. He brings from certain sources, Kabbalistic sources, I think Zohar and various other places, that we find that even Adam Harishon, the human Adam, is called Adam Kadma'a. Now here you can definitely have the question. You can't say that Adam, that once God created man was primordial. In other words, the thought that I gave you yesterday, that once God created the human, he retroactively existed forever. God forbid, that's not true. So just like we can't say it regarding Adam, we can't say it even regarding Adam Kadmon. But then we're left with the question: why is the supernal man? Why is Adam Kadmon above referred to as Kadmon? And if we can even apply that to Adam down here, that would seem to be a wrong application. Rishon we understand because Rishon is the first human, but Kadmon. So he explains that. Yeah, Kadmon is a step above Rishon. Rishon means the first. Kadmon means what is before the first. But how is it applicable then regarding the human being Adam to refer him to Kadmon? He says because exactly what we spoke about earlier. Because whoever is going to follow him, all humans that are going to follow Adam, they're going to come next in line, you can't call them the second generation, third generation, because there is a quantum separation between them. In other words, something about Adam will never carry over to his children. What is about him that's not carrying over to his children is that he was created directly by God, and they do not have that at all. In other words, the fact that you are Cain and Hevel, and you're the first person to be created by the human who was created by God, doesn't make you be created by your body being created by God. There's a certain quality that does not continue onward. It remains, like we said earlier, even the highest, greatest tzaddikim, Rabbi, Arizal, Baal Shem Tov, they just cannot attain that. That's just not attainable. And for that reason, it's applicable to say not just Rishon, because Rishon first means first. Okay, he's number one online, but there's the second one after him. And so there's a certain continuum between him and the next, and a certain equality between the first and the second. When you say it's Kadmon, means you're separating it and putting it into a whole class of its own. And that can apply even if it doesn't mean to the full meaning of like the Orein Sof is Kadmon. The Orein Sof is Kadmon means it always was. However, to Adam Arishon down here, we cannot say that. And even to the Adam Kadmon in the high supernal Adam Kadmon above, we can't either say Kadmon means primordial, but since its quality is that it's unlike any other level that comes after it, we could use the word Kadmon, and so much so that we can say that the Orein Sof is created Adam Bit Salmo in his image, giving him that unique badge of honor of called Kadmon, although it's not the exact Kadmon like the primordial being. But it could be it's considered on a class of its own, both the human being down here, Adam, the first human, and also the supernal level called Adam Kadmon is different than all the other levels because, as we said earlier, it was the Kalim are a direct production of God himself. Okay, that was just my clarification on what we studied yesterday. And now let's continue on as he's going to apply this, continue to explore the difference, the essential difference between the spheros. Till now we spoke in worlds, and now he's going to apply it to spheros. Let's see. Yesterday we said that just like the worlds are divided and are separated in their essential beingness, so too the spheroids are also divided in their essential beingness. So now the last quarter of chapter 38. Just like wisdom and understanding, they're not, it's not that Chachma is just a concentrated point of understanding, and the bina is the fleshing it out. So then they're of the same substance. There's just more light in the first initial point, because there's just the point before you divide it in details, because all the details are concentrated at one point. We can understand that allows for more light to shine. And in Bina, since you're fleshing it out, you're getting into details, which we discussed earlier already, is bringing more vessels. Remember the basic rule that we learned earlier: more vessels, the less light. So Bina is already a reduction of the light. So he's going to say, no, it's not that case. He says, Chachma is on a category on its own, because Chachma in essence, Ulamayla Ma'asaga, is completely beyond grasping. So in a sense, what we're really saying is that Chachma is not the first stage of grasping, it's still above grasping. It's the source for grasping, for comprehension. But it itself is still a state, it's above knowledge. So he's going to challenge. What he's going to do from now to the end of the chapter, in the next chapter, this is what's important to understand, in the next chapter, which is chapter 39, he's going to explain why Chachma is above understanding. It's not part, in a sense, of the intellectual grasp, because the grasping begins in Bina. Chachma is still aloof, still an energy that's higher than grasped and higher than knowledge. What he's going to do right now is he's going to challenge that. Above knowledge, he says, is only Keser. Keser is completely outside of any type of grasp. Chachma is already the beginning of the processing of the mind. So this is what he's going to spend doing to the end of today's class, to the end of today's chapter. And then in the next chapter, he's going to come back and explain. But even though, yes, Chachma is not like Keser, that's above it completely, but Chachma is still considered above the grasp, as we're going to see, which is going to illustrate and further demonstrate this point, that the difference between the Sfirot are not just more or less, but also a fundamental qualitative difference. Hagam, even though Shabakol Makim, then in many places, or maybe it's Kama Makaimis in many places, Chachma is called knowledge, and it's not completely above reason and knowledge. It's not completely above reason and knowledge. We associate Chachma with a level already of knowledge, like we would say regarding Keser. Keser is a level that's completely above knowledge, like the level of Keser be'etzem, in essence. Keser, the levels of Keser are completely transcendental and utterly beyond any type of understanding and grasping. As what do we use in the human experience as the Keser of our own soul? What's the crown of our own soul? We use the word ratzon, will and desire. Which is the idea of ratzon, which is desire. What is desire? The real meaning of a desire is not a desire that has reasons behind it. The real reason of desire is a stubborn desire, a crazy desire, irrational drive. When a person is experiencing an irrational desire, or we rather call it a super rational the drive for something, that drive is called ratzon. When you have contemplations and reasons, and based on that you create within yourself desire, it's also called ratzon, but it's an imitation of ratzon. It's called ratzon tachton, the bottom ratzon. It's a very limited will, but the real power of will is a power that is not part of the realm of reason. It's related to your soul itself. It's the soul itself expressing itself, wanting something, reaching out. That's what the soul is. Meaning, let's understand that on a deeper level. You see, the soul has powers. This is basically everything we've been learning from the beginning of Ayin Beis. This entire thing is that the Or Pnimi, the Esespheres, Agnuza, is the Tenhir Sphere, all that is originally in the infinite light. It's already the powers of the infinite light, not the pure infinite light itself, which is, you remember we learned Or Ein Sof A versus Or Ein Sof B. It's Or Ein Sof B. It's in the Or Ein Sof already kochos. It's like the Or Ein Sof is carrying certain powers. So in manifestation in our own soul, our powers of our soul are definable powers. Above that is the undefined soul. Will is not a power of your soul. It's not one of the features of the soul. Will is the soul itself. The uninhibited, unlimited, undefined soul. That's what real desire is. And that's why it's very hard to control when a person is experiencing ratzon, pure ratzon. You see people sometimes just become crazy about something and no one can even begin to talk to them. All reason and arguments and everything fall on deaf ears because it's like the person is being driven by this super rational craziness. And now there is a holy version of that is insane. It's our insanity that really is our real power of durability. It's an infinite power because all the powers of the soul are limited. Anything that has to do with a reason, every reason has its end. If you love something because it's worthy for the love, you can put a price tag on it. Whatever that value is, it might be a very, very high price tag, but it has a value because the mind has to ascribe a certain limited I. How much am I? As much as I am I. From my very being, this is what if I am. So then it has a limiting factor, and we can, for example, explain to a person that what you're going to lose by following your desire and want is the cost of it. The price you're going to pay for it is too big, and therefore, even though you really, really want, it's not worth it. And the person will concede and say it's not worth it. They'll say, like we say, you'll come to your senses. But sometimes it doesn't work because the person is not operating from a place of sense. They're operating from a place of pure will. Okay? Which is the idea of will. It's the bending and the draw of the soul to something, without any element of understanding, of knowledge, of some reason. As it is known, the real truth of will, you don't have any reason at all. Why do you want? You want mitzada etzem levad, because of your essence, because of who you are. This is why you want. Now, there is a type of a want. Here, what we just explained is pure will that has nothing else mixed into it, just pure desire. The person has no motivation to explain it, other than it's like, I want. That's it. It's pure will, unadulterated will. There is another form of a will that is also will, but there is it's laced. It's laced, or maybe even more than laced. It is founded upon. It is based upon, or there is a foundation of another experience of other than will, which is pleasure. There is a certain pleasure that the will is driving the will. Why do I want? Because this just is my pleasure. Now, we're not talking about silly external type of a pleasure, a silly external element. We're talking about a deep, essential delight that a person has. Now, that too is the reason why it's called will. Why don't we place this will kind of in the category of the lower will that we spoke earlier, a will that's driven by reason? And that is because reason is a power of the soul, like we discussed earlier. One of the 10 powers of the soul is intellect and reason. Pleasure is also the soul itself. The soul itself, which was what we refer to over here as keser, the pure revelation of the neshama itself, reveals itself in two dimensions. The pneumius of that revelation, the internal, deepest element of that revelation, is pleasure. In other words, the first expression of the pure soul itself is an immense pleasure. I don't know, we'll call it the pleasure of life, the pleasure of existing, the pleasure. It's just pure. We might call it an infinite reservoir of pleasure. And then pleasure drives will, which is the more external element of it. Because there is pleasure, then that is driving and pushing the will. I want, so therefore my pleasure is seeking so and so. So I have a pleasure, a delight in building a city. I don't know, whatever that. It's not a reason. It's just a pure pleasure that I have, artistic expression or whatever it is, driving, which is a pure essential of who I am. It's not like an artistic thing which is based on I'm going to make money and therefore I want to be an artist. The artist has their delight is art at their very core. They are at their core an artist. They're born an artist, and to be able to express their pleasure, that builds desire and drive. Now, this is also infinite because the pleasure is infinite. It's also irrational. It's also just because this is my pleasure. Now, not every will can sense the pleasure behind it. There sometimes can be an expression of pure will without any mix of delight. And how that is that we skip that inwardness of pleasure, and that pleasure. So I'm going to guess right now, either the pleasure is there, it's just remaining in the sub-cellars of the consciousness, meaning beyond in a level that you're not feeling, or maybe it's skipping that completely. I'm not exactly sure how that works. And maybe I'm sure in the course of our learning we will come across this concept. But both, whether it's will that is pure will, with that you don't feel anything else but drive, or will that has an undercurrent of pleasure in it, this is considered a valid keser experience of your soul. And over here, it's completely above reason. Versus chachma, which is already the beginning of reasoning, right? So v'yesh ratzon, let's see in the parentheses over here, there is a will, sheyesh b'tainug, that has a pleasure, shu sibas haratzon, which is the cause and driving the will. But again, that does not take away from the will to limit the will, because it's the soul itself that is expressing itself. It's not a power inside of us that is more limited by certain realities outside of self. That's the difference between the powers of the soul and the soul itself. Soul itself is that what is a factor over here is only me, my soul. I'm not driven by anything other than me. Once there's intellect, emotions, these are all responses to external stimulation, which always is limited. The yesh beratzon, and he says, but there is a possible of will. She'ein by taina kol kach. Oh, it's interesting. She'ein by tainu gam kein. That doesn't have any pleasure. Stated elsewhere. He doesn't go into it over here. Maybe we'll look that up and we'll find out more about a keser experience where the external side of the keser is fueled by the internal keser, the ratzon is fueled by the will, or just a manifestation of chitzonius keser, which is the will, without any sense of the pleasure, or maybe there is no pleasure there. V'hainu she'ein lo shum tam klal. You don't have any reason at all. The ein tam le'etzem haratzon. There is no reason for the essence of will. Gam loy tam kam. It's not even a hidden reason. Sometimes we learned earlier that Hashem said, don't challenge me on that. If you challenge me, I'm going to destroy the world. There we explained there is a tam kamos, there is a chachma stima, there is a hidden reason. Here there isn't any reason at all. Like will we explain? Oh, good. So we know we're going to talk about that. When he's going to start speaking about the Or Makif, all we've been learning till now is the Or Pnimi. When we're going to learn about the Or Makif, we're going to explain. From this stubbornness, from this transcendental stubbornness and pure drive of self that's beyond all explanation and reason, he says, is also coming. One of the effects of that in our consciousness is faith. Faith as well. This, that people have faith in a higher existence, in God's existence. That faith is really also, in its purity, is an illumination of this transcendental soul itself, it's a conviction, so to speak. It's not coming in a form of desire, of like drive. And it's more mellow. It's more just calm. It's just a deep conviction in certain something, but there's no intelligence there at all. It's not based on. You can have reasons that support your faith, but that's already a overlay over your faith. The real definition of faith is a conviction of coming from your very being. And it doesn't make it in any way less. It actually makes it more. It's not limited. That's why faith is not limited. And that's why it explains in Tanya that even people that are not intellectual at all and cannot in any way philosophize about the existence of a primordial being and so on and so forth, they never even gave it 2 seconds of thought, just naturally have a very deep conviction that, and they feel it so strongly that everything in their life, they're so constantly mentioning God. God this, God's help, God this. They pray to God, and you catch them in a second when they're vulnerable, they'll cry out to God. And even without that, it's like having change in your pocket all the time. It's like basic bread and butter faith for old babichkis, old women, young little children. Faith, it's so natural. What is that? That's the superpowers of the soul itself as it filters into our consciousness. You're conscious of your faith. You don't have an explanation. It's coming from this pure keser. As he says over here, the power of faith that is there by every single Jew. In its root, it's also an illumination of the keter of our soul, from the keser that's above reason and above understanding. It's only, however, what is the difference? So we have 3 things really in this transcendental experience of soul. We have faith, we have drive, ratzon, and we have pleasure. All 3. Rak. He's going to say that amuna is the least. When this is revealing itself to the person in faith, it's in the most immature way. What I mean immature is it's in the least expansive way. When you are experiencing your transcendental powers of your godly soul, when you unplug that into your consciousness for whatever reason, in a more expansive way, it will create a massive, crazy, insane yearning and drive. It's the different experiences of Usa Daliba to be connected to God, in a way of drive and craziness. It will make you do crazy things. Faith is sits there and it reveals itself in a narrow. It's like a small little crack, and it's coming through in a smallness. In Amuna, it's mainly hovering and like a little ray shining into the conscious. That's why you're conscious of it. This galas aratzon, when there is a wider opening and the soul itself is moving in. It's a more higher dimension, so to speak, of this transcendental power. Who b'deusa deliba is with the yearning of the heart. The ikar, and the highest and most powerful manifestation of the transcendental soul, who b'mesiras nefesh b'poil mamish, is when a person gives their life up in the literal sense. At that moment, their essence of their soul, which is at all costs bound up with God and connected to their mission. I'm going to say something sad now, but the Rabbi Eli Schlanger, the moment they were shooting and all that, he could have laid on the floor and perhaps maybe had a moment and saved himself. But because it's his party, he's responsible, he's calling out, he's creating over here. This was some with from the transcendental pure essence of his soul. He stood up and felt that he needs to negotiate with this terrorist and tell them, stop, don't kill people. This is what are you doing? That's Mesiras Nefesh. That's in a sense a willful putting yourself in the line of fire, literally saying goodbye to your family and everything dear to you your whole life, and giving your life up, al Kiddush Hashem. I mean, obviously you're not processing all of that, but there was a moment of I have to do something over here. And I think very well known that you make yourself a target at that moment, but that's it. It's when push comes to shove, this this complete higher sense of being it just sacrifices itself completely, like Yitzchak going on the Akedah for Hashem's sake, for a higher, for your love for a fellow Jew, for your love for something beyond yourself. So Ikru b'mesiras nefesh b'poel mamish al kiddush Hashem, on the sanctification of God's name, shezel mitzad hiskashrus atzmas hanefesh, the essence of the soul, ba'atzmas ein sof, and the essence of the ein sof. There's no reason over here. Shalamayla matam v'das, completely above reasoning. The ein b'ser shum yudi of his baininus. There's no calculations. There's no knowledge. There's no contemplation. It's a pure, powerful, complete revelation. It's as if the super soul dropped into the consciousness, and you're not operating with normalcy at all, with any inhibitions. It's just pure, absolute drive and commitment that has no limits. Avala chachma, he says, chachma. So this is keser. These are the three experiences of keser. Amuna, ratzon, crazy ratzon, which this ratzon manifests in mesiras nefesh with the amuna, and even deeper than that, there's pleasure. He's not explaining that over here in its manifestation. But chachma is already, there's some element of knowledge. Chachma is already considered part of the 10 sfirot. It's part of an internal light. However, notwithstanding the fact that chachma is already part of the vessels, there is containers, there is already the beginning of the internalization experience, it's still on a class of its own. It's still above intellectual grasp. The hainu, what does that mean? Sheba chachma, that in the power of chachma, both the chachma above the supernal attribute of chachma and the chachma of the soul, meir orein seif kamoishahu, over there, that's the point where the Orein Sof shines. Lamayla ma'asaga, higher than grasping, because you can't grasp the Orein Sof. So where does the Orein Sof land? What's the landing pad for the Orein Sof to land in a vessel? If it's going to be in a vessel, where is it going to land? Only in this vessel, non-vessel, which is Chachma. Bina is already a real vessel. Chachma is not really a container. It's a non-container container. So it is an Or Pnimi, but it's still above real containment. No thought that can grasp him, yet the Chachma touches the non-graspable. It doesn't say Chachma grasps it, it's still illuminating Chachma and Chachma and continue. I just wanted to finish, and then we went over time, but I have to finish this chapter. Okay, then there's the Kitzer, but the Kitzer we're going to leave as a Hashem for next class.